Okay, now that we know some terminology of the scope's anatomy, let's talk about some of the things that scopes do. One of the most important things is called field of view. And what that means is for a certain or given power, how much can you see in terms of feet from left to right? So for instance, if you're at 100 yards and you have it at 7 power, if the field of view is 22 feet, quite literally that means from left to right you can see 22 feet. Now a wider field of view is nice when you're hunting because now you could see more of what you're aiming at, especially on a moving animal. Magnification, well that's obvious, it's how much your scope can magnify the sight picture. 3 to 9, 2 to 7, 4 to 12, those are all very popular magnifications. Now the more modern scopes have a 4-fold or even a 5-fold magnification level. In other words, you can get scopes that are 3 to 12, 4 to 16, or 3 to 15. Again, that's all personal taste. To some extent, though, a scope with a wider range of magnification will be a little bit more flexible, if you will. It will allow you to use your scope for more hunting situations or shooting situations than one that has a more limited range of magnification. Now, of course, the big question that comes up is how much magnification do I need? Well, that depends on what you're doing. Big game in open country, you might need a 4 to 12 or a 6 to 18. In the same country, if you're using a scope to shoot ground squirrels, you might need 20 to 24 power. If you're in dense woods, you might only need a 1.5 to 4 or 2 to 7. So you really need to know what you're going to be using the gun for and tailor your optics for that job. The reticle, which is also known as a crosshair, there's so many available today, it's really incredible. You have your standard crosshair, the Leupold Duplex. It has made that famous 50 or 60 years ago, and everybody makes their own version of a duplex. There's ballistic reticles that'll help you adjust for your holdover for long distance shots. There's ballistic reticles that actually have little circles in it, so you could actually see, instead of having a dot to reference, your eyes drawn to the center of that little circle. Leupold, or excuse me, Nikon has made that popular with their BDC reticles, and that helps you with moving targets. There's illuminated reticles, there's stick reticles, thin reticles, target reticles. Again, you get the picture. You need to choose the reticle that's going to do the job that you want it to do. Let's get back to this parallax error thing. When it comes to optics and you're bending light, most scopes have one parallax setting, and that's usually set at 100 yards. And what that means is the sight picture is absolutely perfectly clear at 100 yards, and that's it. Any distance closer or further away, there's going to be what's referred to as parallax error introduced. Now, it's typically for shorter ranges so small that you wouldn't even worry about it. Mere mortals would never know the difference. When you get to shooting, say, 400 yards, 500 yards, and you have a higher magnification required because of that distance, that's when you would like that side focus or the adjustable objective lens to take that error out because it becomes more significant with longer shots. But again, if you're inside, say, 300 yards, you shouldn't really worry about parallax error. Okay, another thing to consider is the resolution of your scope. And all that means is the efficiency of your scope. So much light's going to come in here, how much of that light is going to come out there? Now, you know, a good scope like a Leupold VX2, Nikon Buckmaster, they'll be 92, 93%. It's like resolution is really efficiency of your optics. Nikon Monarchs would be about 95%, Leupold VX3 perhaps a little bit more than that. The Zeiss scopes, you know, again 95, 96%. And the way that they do that is you know, the quality of the optics, in other words, how tightly the tolerances are between the different lenses in your scope. So any little error in one will screw up the whole bunch. So they're very, very precisely machined. And the better the optics, they also put better coatings on there to reduce glare and reflection, which make the light bounce around, and so it doesn't come out the other end. So that's really what you're paying for. Most scopes come with really good tubes and good mechanicals, but you're paying for the tolerances and the coatings on those lenses. Now most of the scopes are sealed, waterproof, fog-proof. Everything we sell is. They're going to be impervious to moisture unless you've cracked something, and most of the manufacturers would actually fix that for free. So just beware that cheap stuff, the seals are not going to be very good. You can get moisture infiltration that'll fog up your scope, and that's something we don't deal with here because we don't sell junk. When you're setting in your scope, and we do have videos in the help video section about setting in your scope, just note again that you're literally moving your inner tube around when you're setting it in. And you're going to want to use a laser bore sight or something so you're not throwing expensive shells down range to get you close. And if you can't get close when you're setting in, chances are there's something not right. Maybe you should spend some decent money on a good set of rings and bases. They're machined to much higher tolerances than the cheap stuff, and that will get your scope aligned a lot closer before you even start to shoot than the cheap mounts. So that's just a word to the wise. Buy good mounted stuff. You bought a nice rifle, you're buying an expensive scope. Don't cheap out on the mounting hardware. And then one of the questions we get all the time, well, how much should I spend on a scope? Well, that really depends on what you're going to be using it for. I mean, frankly, if you're buying a $200 gun, there's no sense of putting a $1,000 scope on it. However, you need to spend as much as you can to get the job done that you'll want. In other words, for your typical 3 to 9 type of scope, you can spend $300-400 and get a very, very high quality scope. But if you're looking at a much higher powered scope, you're definitely going to be spending more money. Now if you want lower power, again, the cost will be lower. And do you need a lot of magnification? Do you need a lot of resolution? These are things you have to decide for yourself. When deciding about resolution, in other words, the quality of the optics, you need to ask yourself, gee, how often do I have shots in low light conditions if you have experience hunting? And if the answer, gee, I have a lot, then you're going to want to buy a higher quality scope. If the answer is, man, gee, hardly ever, then you probably could get away with a mid-level quality scope. If you really don't know, start with the mid-level quality scope, like a VX2 or a 3200 Bushnell or a Buckmaster. And if you need more, you could always get more. But those scopes, generally speaking, will be all you need. So again, if you have any questions, don't feel embarrassed to call us. That's what we're here for. Number's 860-808-1283. Thanks.